For this experiment, I want to start charging and discharging a battery under automated control of the power supply and bench view. So I'm actually just simulating a battery with this capacitor so that I can charge it up quickly and discharge it quickly and display that on the scope. But it's the same circuit and the same principle for charging and discharging a battery. So I'm going to use power supply number 2 to charge up the battery with a constant current. So I'll just set a constant current or a current limit, and my battery voltage would be 4.2 volts. So it's set up to just charge up, and I can turn it on and it'll charge up in about 2.5 seconds to 4.2 volts. Now the capacitor is still charged because it was charging through a diode even though the power supply went back to 0. And I can discharge it using this power supply over here. If I turn this one on, it will take the same 2.5 seconds to discharge down to 0. Now you can't see it, but I'll show that to you in a minute. So to discharge with a constant current, I've set up a transistor. This is an NPN bipolar transistor with a 10 ohm resistor on its emitter, between emitter and ground. And I'm trying to maintain a constant voltage across this resistor to keep a constant current through it. And I've set up the power supply to be a 4-wire configuration where the power is coming into the base of the transistor, and the sense wire for the power is on the emitter, which is directly across this resistor. So the sense wire is going to keep the voltage across this resistor at whatever we set the voltage to on the power supply. The two ground wires, the ground and its sense, are just connected to a local ground on this breadboard. Because we're not running high current, that should be sufficient. But the real trick for the 4-wire configuration is to get this voltage across this resistor to be constant while we're actually feeding the voltage into the base of this transistor. And the collector of the transistor is connected to the capacitor, so it's just discharging through the transistor and keeping a constant current through this resistor. To set power supply number 3 up in 4-wire mode, we want to go into source settings and just pick sense 4-wire. Done. This power supply can be used to make a constant current load with just a transistor and a resistor. How cool is that? Using the 4-wire mode. So I'm going to back off the camera and have a look at the scope. So you can see that in operation. Let's do it this way. And I'll have to go around and... So I'm going to push the charging button, and you can see the voltage goes up to 4.2 volts. And if I hit the discharge button, it discharges in about the same amount of time, 2.5 seconds or so. So let's do that again. On, charging, turn it off, discharge. So now that we have the charging and discharging working, we can try to automate it. And all it's going to require is to turn on this power supply and then that one. So I'm going to zoom out to the big screen and do some programming.